What's going on, guys? This is No Filter, a Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Wizrad, and this is episode 19 being recorded on August 22nd, 2018. So this segment is jam-packed. I want to try to move through this relatively concise. I have a ton of games to talk about, but I do have two very interesting segments of hot matches coming up for you guys. I know that you guys love those segments, so stay tuned for that. But first off, let's jump into some of the games I've been playing recently. So the first game I want to talk about today is Tetra's Escape. And yes, that is Tetra's, Tetra''S, not Tetris. Although it does have quite a lot to do with Tetris, so it is kind of a play on the words. It comes to us from ABX Game Studio and published by Ratalaika Games. And yeah, Tetra's Escape is a puzzle platforming game that involves cubes that you can then transform into different shapes of Tetris blocks, and that is how you progress throughout a puzzle stage. So basically, a stage will have, say, 3 or 4 boxes. There is an exit gate in one area of that level, and you then have to create different platforms with these cubes. You can only create one platform with one at a time. As soon as you make a platform, you cannot go back, so you have to really think about when and where you're going to make these platforms, and then you have these cubes which can basically jump up one level of block and they continue through. So basically you have to think of it as if there's like a ledge and you have to create stairs to then bring yourself up to that ledge. And each different block has a certain type of a Tetris block that you can create. Each cube has each cube has a different type of Tetris block that you can create, and it actually gets very difficult when you go on in the game, and the actual puzzles are really clever. And I'm trying to think what game this is similar to, and what I would think that's most similar to it is, I'd say, if you guys do remember the game Pushmo on 3DS and all the on Wii U and the sequels and all that stuff, it reminds me of that because it's platforming where you're really just jumping up one set of blocks for the most part, but you're kind of creating the platform in front of you. So yeah, it's actually a really fun little game. It's very cheap. It's only around $5. So if you guys are a fan of puzzle platformers, I think this is a game that you'd be interested in. If you're not a puzzle platform fan, obviously stay away. But it doesn't do much damage. It's only $5. And it's very it's well made, and yeah, again, if you're a puzzle platforming fan, I think this is a game you might be interested in. Next game is Roboto for Nintendo Switch again. This comes to us from JMJ Interactive, and it's around $10. I don't know, not really too much to say about this one. It markets itself as a very old school sort of puzzle platforming game. However, the interesting kind of bit to this game, and like what really kind of sets it apart, is it has this kind of mechanism where you shoot an electricity ball at an enemy. That enemy then stops until the electricity kind of dissipates, and then they can move along freely again. But while they're electrocuted, then you have to soak them in like a hose that you have. Basically, like you're like a firefighter or something. You have to then soak the electrocuted enemy. So it's got a little bit of strategy involved with that aspect, because there might be 10 enemies on the screen at once, and some of them are following the others. And if you're trying to shoot the electricity balls at them, as well as kill them with the water over a certain amount of time, because obviously you don't just kill them right away with the water stream, you have to really think about when you're going to attack certain enemies. And that's kind of the whole point of the game, is you're going through over 100 levels in the game. And again, it's basically like one of those one screen things. You see one screen, you play through the game, like Super Meat Boy and all that kind of stuff, where it seems very basic in that way, but it definitely does pick up a lot of difficulty as you play. I haven't beaten the game quite yet, but I probably will see it through to the end. I imagine there's probably just dozens of hours to actually beat the game, because I'm at around level 45, 50 right around now, and it's definitely picked up. It's a lot. It's pretty difficult, so I always like some difficulty in my games, and definitely add some replay value for me. So yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to stick this one through. But as far as the bad for the game, it is incredibly basic. It looks kind of ugly. It makes sense when it's an old school platformer like that, but there really is nothing extraordinary about it. Something I do like, though, is that it does have some boss battles after every 10 levels. And I definitely appreciate that. It's really fun to kind of play these different bosses. It switches up things a little bit too. But yeah, I don't know. It's for $10, I feel like Tetris Escape is a better sort of puzzle platformer kind of a game than this one, and it's $5 less. However, again, if you do like some very difficult platformers, this might be up your alley, but it's a little bit rough around the edges, and it's nothing too crazy. I feel like we've played games, even though it might not have the exact same, concept as this, we played a lot of games like this. So again, if you're really looking for a platforming game like this, maybe take a look, but it's nothing extraordinary or anything like that. The next game I want to talk about is Star Story: The Horizon Escape. So this comes to us from Forever Entertainment, and it's around $10. I was very interested in this game when I first picked it up. I love the idea that it is a strategy RPG, choose your own story kind of adventure, and very high emphasis on choose your own story, because basically what the game is you're an adventurer, you land on a planet and you're trying to figure out what's the cause of this planet, why did I crash on this planet, and what's going on here. But basically, as you go through the story, you have different paths that you choose. You have different enemies that you fight, and it's a roguelike choose your own story type of a game. It's kind of interesting. I don't think I've played a game quite like this before. However, I don't think all of it really lands. I do love the choose your own story aspect, and really it creates a lot of replay value when you go through the story. I've went through the whole game once, but there are multiple endings. I don't even know how many. I imagine there's probably 15 plus different endings that you can have and different stories that you can follow, because again, there's all these different paths that you go through, but every time you die, you end up building up your own arsenal, which again is a fantastic choice for all these roguelike games that come out nowadays. The fact that every time you play through the game, you are still progressing. You're making it better and easier for yourself to progress further into the story in your next run. I love that in games like this. However, again, I did beat the game the one time, and I felt, this is enough. I played through it. I got through this whole story here. Wasn't too long. I'd say going through the story once, or, going through all the paths, at least for one path at one time, is probably around an hour and a half maybe. So again, I can see this game being as long as you want it to be, as long as you put in the effort to kind of go through it. It definitely got very difficult, and that was one of the things that kind of turned me off, is because the difficulty was a little bit annoying, because you would use some of the items again, so like this is kind of going back to what I was saying before. In this one, you use some of the items while you're going through a different run. You're trying to go really far in this run. You use all these items up, and then all of a sudden you don't have any of these items for your next run. So basically, it seems like you're wasting your next run, because the game is going to pick up difficulty later on in that next run, but you've already used all your effort and resources that you collected previously on your last run. So now you have to basically start from ground zero, knowing that you're probably not going to beat the game again. So it was just a little bit of this unfair kind of difficulty that kind of turned me off of it after I did beat the game. But I'll be honest, I loved going through that first time and really pushing to collect enough and resource to go through the game. It definitely picks up in difficulty, like I'm saying. But and the story, it's interesting enough, but I do feel like they should have gave it a little bit more of a kick. I think it's more of the atmosphere and the setting that I kind of enjoyed, some of the interesting little characters that you see, and just the mystery behind the planet that you landed on. But other than that, it's kind of a meh story for most of it. Yeah, if you guys like these sort of, I guess I would compare this to sort of like a visual novel kind of a game, but also mixed with like turn-based strategy RPG kind of combat, it's not too bad. I would say maybe wait for a sale for this. It is around $10. I think it's around $7 in the States. But yeah, I don't know. Like, if you're interested, again, in this type of game, I'd say give it a go. It's not very expensive. If you're on the fence, I'd say maybe wait for a sale. But yeah, there it is. There's Star Story: The Horizon Escape from Forever Entertainment. Thank you guys for the code. And the next game I want to talk about, which is pretty interesting for me. I haven't played too many of these type of games before, but it is called Guts and Glory. So yes, Guts and Glory is a game coming to us from Tiny Build Games, and Hackjack Productions, a developer. And yeah, this is basically a gaming YouTuber's wet dream, and I feel like that is exactly what these developers were making the game for. It's janky as hell, it's funny, it's crude, it's crazy, and it's something that would be crazy for one of these YouTubers that love to just yell at a camera and make millions of dollars playing it. So obviously, like the PewDiePies and the Jacksepticeye's and all these people that just want to play a game just for the laughs for their audience. This is a game for them. And I have never really played too many of these, like the Happy Wheels and was it the QWERTY or whatever it's called, or Quirk, I think it was. These games where it's like this weird physics engine, that you kind of play through. It's good for commentary, again, if you're playing it online. And you're basically just racing towards a finish line, but you're trying to avoid getting absolutely obliterated and destroyed and thrown around on your bike or in your car or in your ATV, in your motorbike. You're basically just trying to race to the finish line for the most part in this game, and and just avoid these crazy obstacles. It has a ton of blood, it has a ton of crazy antics that are going around. The physics can get wonky at times. It's everything you would think of for a game like this. You have I think it's like around 10 sets of environments, and then you have I believe around 5 or 6 levels in each, and you have to just, again, go to the finish line. You have quite a few different characters that you can choose from that all have different sets of physics. So one, for example, is you're playing an old guy riding his bike with a wagon behind him carrying his wife, I imagine. So basically the wagon will swing if you're taking a turn and throw you around like crazy, so it's not very practical in most ways. Another one, you have Jack and Jill, who are basically just a couple riding a bike together. Probably the easiest to maneuver around, but is definitely a little bit slower. You have a car with a Asian family in it. I don't know why. You have a motorbike daredevil lady, which is a really fun one to go in because you can just fly off and go flying everywhere. Take a big hill and then go flying in. And you have then you'll land somewhere crazy. Again, just all these random things that'll happen that are interesting to watch. And again, I can see why a lot of people like to watch this stuff, especially if they have a personality that they like to follow online that will commentate over it. Yeah, so, some of the examples that they have in the game are you'll be going down a ramp that does a loop-de-loop, and then you have to avoid all these saws as they're swinging by you, all these crazy things here. Or you have to go through an obstacle course, basically avoiding all these mines that are thrown out throughout the field, or you're going through a stadium trying to avoid these truckers that are trying to knock you over. There's a ton of random crazy things that you're going through, and honestly, I had quite a lot of fun with that. I beat pretty much every single level they had. I have a few left that are very difficult to beat that I will work towards. I will get it done. But it definitely gets a little bit wonky, though, at times. I don't think the developers or Tiny Build were really caring if the game had bugs or glitches in it, because that just kind of adds to the whole atmosphere of the game. It doesn't take itself seriously. There's no story to it. You just kind of play the game, have fun, and again, it's catered to the YouTube gamers out there. So if any of you guys are watching, I would definitely suggest you try this game out, especially if it's on Switch. I feel like an audience watching some gameplay live on Twitch or YouTube, I feel like they'd probably eat it up. So in that aspect, Tiny Build, great job. But for me, not really my cup of tea. I really wanted to try it out, and thank you again, Tiny Build, for sending the code. Just not for me. For anyone who is interested in those type of things, I feel like, again, if you played Happy Wheels, I think you must have already bought this game. This is made for you. So there it is, guys. That is Guts and Glory. Next game I want to talk about is The Moose Man. So this comes to us from Sometimes You, who've been pretty active on the Switch recently, and I think this is right up there with one of the best games they've made on the Switch so far. So The Moose Man is a narrative storytelling based I guess it'd be a puzzle platforming game, and it's very interesting. If you guys remember the game Never Alone on Wii U, and I think pretty much every platform out there now, it is historic based, and it's based around a tribe and basically their mythology and their religion and their culture, and kind of teaching you different aspects of how they live and their their mythology around that. So their gods and their their stories and their folk tales, and it's very interesting. So the game is based around the Chud tribes. I believe they're in Europe. I believe it's Northern Europe, probably maybe in Scandinavian countries. They keep it relatively blank, and it's a culture with like shamans and stuff like that. And basically, you are a being, and you are trying to find yourself out of the underworld. And basically, you're going through all of these different. It seems like it's a little bit abstract in how it teaches you this stuff, but basically, you're just kind of trying to exit out of their underworld, and while you're doing that, you're meeting all these different mythological figures and stuff like that. So in the game, you're basically walking from left to right for the most part. However, the key concept in the gameplay is that you can basically turn on to, I guess how I would describe it is like a land of the living and a land of the dead sort of a thing, where basically if you flip a button, you're then all these figures in the background and the foreground will pop up as these white figures, right? Whereas if you're just walking normally, you're just kind of walking through like a dead forest, but then you flip on this button, then all of a sudden this forest is filled with walking spiders and rocks that are in the way and all this crazy stuff, and it's really interesting. And you go through this game with this concept, creating these new platforms that move you, creating these new things that will unlock paths for you. And it's think of it as if you're playing like Zelda, for example, in one of the temples, where basically you turn on the I forget what the mask is called, but the purple paddle looking thing. It's like the mask that basically allows you to see certain things that weren't there before. Think of it as that, and you're kind of walking through this game here, going through all these different worlds, and my God, guys, is this game pretty. It is gorgeous. It's very minimalist in its style. However, it has a very heavy monochromatic look to it, but the animation is choppy in the best way. It's created like that as if it's like an old film or something like that. And the music, oh my God. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you definitely should go back through my timeline. You'll find a post I made with some of the music, and it has that beautiful like choir chants in the background. It's so incredible, and it's got to be coming from the actual Chud tribes in Europe. It's just beautiful, and the story and just how it kind of goes through itself, while it is kind of abstract and a little bit tough to kind of pay attention to, it's one of those more atmospheric type games, trying to bring you into the culture and teach you different things about the culture. It's something special, and I would actually compare it a lot to Limbo in many ways. It's very interesting to me, and I think if you guys are interested in these kind of learning type games, which are going to teach you a little bit of something that you haven't learned before, I think this might be for you. It's really interesting. It's very cheap, and no matter how terrible I probably explained the game here, I think this is definitely a pickup for a lot of people who are interested in stories in their games, and especially if you want to learn something new. It's a very good game. So the next game I have here is Chicken Assassin Reloaded. So this game is coming to us from Akupara Games, developed by One Shark, and it is around $8 on the eShop. And apparently, I've seen this game before, and apparently it was a massive, mass tapping games. If you guys have seen those games, mainly on Android and stuff like that, where you basically are just tapping the screen like constantly, and that's building up your repertoire, building up your, as if it's like an RPG, and the more you tap, the more you're going to level up and unlock new features and stuff like that. And that's basically the game here, but it's on the Switch, which is very interesting to me. From what I see, I couldn't see that if you could actually just tap stuff. It was all with the buttons and the cursor. It didn't seem like it was very well optimized for the Switch in most ways. It just didn't really take advantage of much of the Switch's hardware. And yeah, it just didn't feel right to me being on the Switch. This was clearly meant for tapping, and it was just kind of bare bones in that way. But don't get me wrong, there is a ton of stuff to unlock and a ton of different levels you can play, and the visuals look interesting and all that stuff, but I just don't think it makes sense for the Switch, at least in the way that it was presented here. But yeah, so basically you're a chicken and you are fighting enemies. So basically you'll have your chicken, you're in the middle of a level, and enemies are coming at you from left and right. You have to hit these enemies before they kill you and take down all your health. Every time you kill an enemy, you unlock basically little orbs that you try to collect. And that's pretty much it. You're not doing too much else. Some of the levels get kind of crazy, and you unlock different things that can buff up your chicken, which is always a lot of fun. It's constant progression that way, but that's really all you're doing. Basically, you're moving the cursor over on top of an enemy, hitting A a bunch of times. Then you're moving it to the right, hitting A a bunch of times over another enemy, and then after a certain amount of time, you're inevitably going to die because they're either doing too much damage to you or they bring too many people. And by that time you die, you go back, you upgrade your chicken again, then you can move a little further forward by doing the exact same thing, hitting A, and then you die, you do it again. And I can see why that'd be fun if if you're on a commute with a phone or something like that. But if I'm gonna have a Switch out, I'm not gonna be playing whatever they call these things, forever tapping type of games. I'm going to be playing, a full other, game on the Switch that actually takes advantage of what it has, 2 full joysticks and all these buttons and triggers, you know what I mean? So a game like this just wasn't my cup of tea, as you guys can see. However, I looked at some other coverage of the game, and evidently this is one of the best tapping games out there. I don't have too much crazy experience with these type of games, but apparently this is one of the best out there. So if you guys are interested in a tapping game and just want to kind of waste your time away with that, then yeah, this might be a game for you. But just for me, not my thing. Yeah, there it is, guys. There's Chicken Assassin Reloaded, and that was for around $8. Last game I want to talk about is called Muddle Dash, and Muddle Dash is kind of interesting to me because it was a different sort of, I guess you just kind of say, action platformer game. Basically what it is it's a multiplayer co-op game where you're racing friends locally on your Switch, going through a different level, and basically you can kind of mess up how the other person plays. Think of it as, I would say it's almost like a mix of like a Cloudberry Kingdom and Runbow kind of put together. Runbow because of all the colors, Cloudberry and because of sort of the level layouts, I'd say. Cloudberry Kingdom because of how difficult some of the levels can get, especially when you have your friend kind of changing the platforms around on you. So basically, if you run over a certain area on the map, it'll say flip up a gate or something that'll block your friend in front of you. And then by the time you get there, and then you can catch up to your friend and you can keep running. It's interesting, and I kind of liked it. I like the look of it. I like the colors. And when you're playing with a friend, it is definitely fun. But the big glaring fault for this game, which I just don't appreciate. I appreciate that it is a cheap game. It's around $6. And again, it's coming from Slam Punks. Thank you very much for the code for it. It's just co-op. So I've only really played this game co-op twice now, and I've wanted to play it again, but you have to be with 2 people. There is no option for a single player with AI or anything like that, which I would have definitely loved to do. It wouldn't be as fun, obviously. When you're playing with co-op, it's a lot of fun, but it's just sad that that's the only option you have here. And I'm not on the Switch co-op all that too much, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of disappointing that that's the way. However, again, it is perfect for the Switch because it's, again, everything can be played on one Joy-Con. You hand it over, all you need to do is jump and run pretty much in the game, and it's it's fun when you do have someone else to play with. I'll keep it at that. I just wish that they did have a single player with it. The game looks pretty, sounds decent enough. It's kind of funny, you know how it sounds too with the sound effects that they have for these little squid-looking people. And yeah, again, I just wish it was single player, but not a bad co-op game on the Switch, especially for the price. And there it is, guys. Those are all the games I've been playing recently, and now on to Hot Matches. So the first segment of Hot Matches, I want to talk about the Nindies Highlights Showcase thing at Gamescom, which I think is awesome. I love these Nindies Directs that Nintendo puts out. I absolutely adore them. The games are always, there's such a large variety in these games. And again, guys, I will repeat this, and I still need to do a full video about it, but Nindies or Indies are the new AA games. The games that actually take some chances, are different, that aren't the same, online shooter game that everyone else wants to play or online racing game. It's something different. Although I do agree that a lot of them focus too much on the 2D gameplay, but there are some serious gems in those. And yeah, let's just jump into this. I really want to talk about some of the games here, but one last thing I did want to bring up. Why the hell was this only on the Nintendo UK channel? Like, what the fuck? All these games are out in every single region, so why would they only release this on the Nintendo UK YouTube channel? Are they trying to just bring attention to it, or what's the deal? I don't get it. It really makes me want to rant about how unorganized Nintendo of America and just Nintendo in general seems. It just baffles me how some of these decisions are made, or how they just might not even have people to do work for them, just anyone competent. It's crazy. Like, I just heard recently today on Twitter, I saw that someone was saying that Nintendo, I think it was Go Nintendo, Raw Meat Cowboy, shout out to you, but apparently Nintendo is searching for people to hire that can revamp their eShop and their user interface. Like, how the fuck does a multi-billion-dollar company like Nintendo not have people that are competent enough to completely fix the UI? Like, me personally, I'm fine with the homepage as it is. I wouldn't mind to have a little bit of very light music, nothing too crazy, or like themes and stuff like that, but how do they not have people that can do this? How do they not have engineers that can make a smooth home screen? You know what I mean? Like, I just don't understand how Nintendo, a multi-billion-dollar company with some of the best designers in the world, can't figure this shit out and have to find someone still, and they haven't even chose someone yet? I don't fucking get it. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, let's get back to the Nindies highlight showcase from the Nintendo UK YouTube channel. Let's do this. So the first game I want to talk about is Murphy's Law. Yes, this game finally came out of the woodwork, and yes, it's releasing the day of the presentation? What? So yeah, this is very, very interesting to me, and I kind of want to do a video just on this by itself, but Murphy's Law, a game that everyone's really hyped for, and it went dead silent for over a year, I believe. Then all of a sudden, just in the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 weeks, we started seeing some Twitter posts from the developer and some screenshots, and boom, Murphy's Law out today. I've definitely seen some mixed responses to the game so far, but I think it is very annoying to see all these fucking... that's going to be my next segment of Hot Matches, but all these fucking Switch bandwagoners, or whatever you want to call them, jumping on the review right away because they know people are interested in the game that day, and they're reviewing the game within 5 hours of playing the game. So they're literally reviewing the game like in today's day and age where games come out and there's day one patches and stuff like that. They're reviewing a game, an online focused game, when the game has hit so much fucking traffic as soon as it's released, and not giving the game a fair chance just so they can get some clicks on a YouTube video. It's really annoying to see how people are doing that nowadays. But anyway, I'm definitely going to be picking up this game at some point. I just have so many other games to play right now, but it looks interesting. I love the idea. It looks a little bit slow so far for me in the actual gameplay that I have seen for it, but I love these announcements where it's like released today. This one genuinely surprised me, and I just wonder, is the reason why they wanted to release this now is because they didn't want to seem like they're charging for the game and then they're also charging extra money for the online? Because if they release this later in September, October, then you'd have to be paying for the online to play this game as well. So if they beat it to the punch and release this online-focused game now before that deadline, does it mean that they think they're going to be getting more sales because people don't feel like, oh, well, I'm paying for the online membership or for the online as well as the game? Or to be fair, it could be the other way around, whereas if people already have the membership, then they'll want to buy more online games to play and use it for. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking way too into this, but that's Murphy's Law. Really interesting that it's releasing that day. I love announcements like that, so pretty cool, and I will definitely be picking that up at some point. Next game, Bad North. This was in one of the last Nindies presentations, and it's coming to us from Raw Fury, who are a fantastic developer, one of the best on the Switch for sure. One of my favorite games on the Switch actually is Goner, which they published as well. And yeah, guys, Bad North, as soon as I saw it in the last presentation, I knew I was going to buy it. I bought it day one. I slightly opened it up, but again, I've been trying to finish some of these other games, so I have it, I bought it, I'm ready to play it, just need time to do so. I haven't played it yet, but yeah, I love it. It looks fantastic. I love the design, I love how it looks, I love everything about it so far, so That's Bad North, and that's out already. That's out in the day of the presentation. And the last one, another, because this was like the trio of games that released that day of the presentation, Prison Architect Nintendo Switch Edition. And yes, finally. I've been wanting Prison Architect ever since I saw it on Steam, on like a Steam summer sale a while ago for probably like $20. And now I'm finally able to get it on a platform I actually want to play all the time. I will probably be waiting for a sale on it, because it taints my thoughts about a game when I see it on Steam on sale for like, for like $10 or $20 or whatever, but then it's releasing on the Switch for $40. I know it was a sale, so that's why it was cheaper, but it's just annoying seeing that. But anyway, that it's also coming with Escape Mode DLC coming in summer 2018, which is really cool. So that should be in the next like month or so. I've been looking forward to play this game forever. As some of you may know, I went to architecture school, so I have some idea of design, and being able to play a game like this for a prison, which is pretty cool. I'll be doing like a whole panopticon and everything like that. I'm definitely interested in playing this game, and it looks really good. And so that's Prison Architect and the Escape Mode DLC. Next game is The Gardens Between, which looked amazing. That's coming out September 20th, and it looked gorgeous. If I have the game right, I believe that this was the one where it looks like you're going through a full 3D kind of, or sort of like Bad North, where it's like this isometric sort of view, but it's in an isometric view, but you're going through a full 3D puzzle world, trying to make it what it looks like to a top of a mountain. And the game looked beautiful. It reminded me of like a Journey, or like a Tale of Two Sons or something like that. Or Tale of Two Brothers, sorry. The game looked gorgeous. This is a day one for me, 100%. Everything about the game impressed me, and I can't wait for that. Next game is Windjammers. So Windjammers, as some of you may know, was an old school, I guess you'd say, dodgeball with a frisbee type game. Kind of reminds me of Ultimate Dodgeball or something like that. And so that game is coming out on 23rd of October, and then, but wait, there's more. Windjammers 2, a sequel to Windjammers, is also coming in 2019. So you can pick up Windjammers now if you want to play the original, or you can wait till Windjammers 2 comes out in 2019. It had a really cool anime sort of look, or just cartoony trailer to it, and I'll probably wait for Windjammers 2 just to jump into, hopefully, the bigger and better game. But for those who are interested, Windjammers is out there, and it honestly looks like a lot of fun. I love those type of sport games like that. Next game, which was also had a release date, is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, and that's coming November 6th. So yes, finally, that game's getting a release date, and yes, I definitely want to pick this game up, but I still have to pick up Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap first. I haven't really been following these, because I know I want to play Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap, but I just knew that this game was coming out, and I wanted to know if this was going to be a sequel or if this was a completely different game. So I still got to look that up, but this one looks a lot better, so I might end up just picking this one up right away. It looks gorgeous. I mean, like, the hand-drawn art style is like to the max. Like, you've seen other hand-drawn games, but you haven't seen other hand-drawn games quite like this before. It's something special. It looks amazing. The next game, which I've been following for a little while now, I think I've just been seeing Steam posts about it, but Moonlighter, coming autumn 2018, and yes, like, ever since I saw the icon for it, for Moonlighter, it was like a guy with white hair with like a bandana, and he has like a backpack, and it looks like he's about to fight like a monster or something. It looked amazing. I loved it, and I just knew I was gonna wait for it, because for some reason, I don't know why I was seeing so much of it when I don't usually follow Steam announcements and stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. But Moonlighter coming autumn 2018, and I am definitely picking it up. It looks like a gorgeous, like, kind of imitation of like a Zelda game, and it looks amazing. Next game announced was Children of Morta, early 2019. I'm kind of forgetting a little bit of what this one was looking like, but I just know that this one wasn't really interesting me too much. I'll definitely have to keep a lookout for reviews, though. There's a lot of really great reviewers out there right now, and some of them also don't copy people. Philip Mewson, but Yeah, so Children of Morta didn't really interest me too much, but that's just another game coming out early 2019. Next is This War of Mine, which seems like another game, sort of like what I was just talking about with Moose Man, where it seems like it's almost like a documentary game that you're kind of going through, and it looks pretty interesting. Kind of reminds me of Valiant Hearts in some ways, so that's This War of Mine. Looks pretty decent, and that's coming out in November 2018. I'll definitely keep an eye out for that. Streets of Rogue, which is obviously a play on Streets of Rage. Pretty blatant, kind of trying to build off of that. It was a very high energy kind of trailer. Winter 2018. I'm a little bit interested. I'll have to see for reviews for that one personally. Next is Everspace Stellar Edition. The game looked gorgeous. However, whenever I see a game like this, I always kind of have a little bit of like, is this on like mobile or something? Like, it's super gorgeous, so it doesn't look like it would be, but it's just when you see these type of games coming out, there seemed like there's a lot of influx of these type of space shooter games on mobile that makes me kind of interested to see, hey, was this a mobile game? So while the game looks amazing and I really am interested in the game, I'm going to kind of wait for reviews on it too, just to see how well it's actually been transferred over onto the Switch, because sometimes these mobile ports, when it's in a 3D space, they're a little bit rigid in how you're actually moving them. So we'll see how it goes. Next game is Baba Is You. That's in autumn 2018. And yeah, it looked... I like the trailer. It reminded me a lot of something like a WarioWare, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I watched a little bit of gameplay after, and it looked a little more basic than what the actual trailer was. I loved how interesting and kind of abstract the trailer was, and it made me think, hey, if the game's like that too, this could be a fantastic puzzle game. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye out a little bit for reviews here, and maybe the price. If it's probably $10 or under, I think it's probably a day one for me personally. But if it's not, I might have to wait for some reviews to see if it's actually as good as the trailer made it out to be. The next game is Slay the Spire. Kind of forgetting a little bit of what this one was. I don't think it really stuck with me as much as some of the other games here, but that's coming out in early 2019. Next is Night Call. This one definitely piqued my interest. It was really, really cool. So I love these sort of visual novel type games, which just looks like it. And it seems like you're a taxi driver and you're piecing together what looks like a mystery off of all the taxi passengers that you're picking up. So basically the view is it looks like it'd be like your chin and your body as you're driving, looking back towards the passenger seat, and that's the person you're talking to as the taxi driver. So I think this game has a huge potential, and it's coming out early 2019, and that is 100% on my wish list. I love these type of games. It looks super interesting, looks dark, like an LA noir mixed with kind of like a monochrome dark detective kind of story, and yeah, that's definitely piqued my interest. Next game is Terraria, and that's coming out in 2019. The game's been on like everything. While some of the game looks interesting to me, whenever I actually see it playing with all these little boxes coming up over top of people, I do not want to play the game. I had a chance to buy it on Wii U, I had a chance to buy it on Steam, on PS4, all this kind of stuff. Just, I don't think it's my thing, but clearly a lot of people like it because it's being released on pretty much everything. So that's it, guys. That's the list I'm going to go over here from Nintendo Nintendo Indie highlights. See, even here, like, it seems like Nintendo UK is using a whole different term. Like, whereas if it's Nintendo of America, they'll be saying Nindie, right? Nindie. Here they have indie highlights for Nintendo UK. It's like there's no one talking. I don't understand it, Nintendo. What the hell's going on? But yeah, anyway, let's get on to the next segment of Hot Matches. So I know I've talked about this quite a bit over the last year or so, but the general atmosphere of Nintendo fans, and especially kind of the fair weather fans when it comes to Nintendo Switch, and just around in general, and especially on YouTube, it's been crazy recently. And I watch a lot of them, and I subscribe to a lot of them, and I really appreciate their content. But I won't watch a lot of them all the time. I get really sick of some of these people because it just seems so fake to me, and it's just really weird to see that these people that have blown up with the Switch, these channels that had nothing going over a year and a half ago to now, because of the Switch, all of a sudden they have all these subscribers, but they don't know anything about video games or Nintendo and haven't played. They weren't there for the Wii U, they weren't there for the Wii or anything like that. They might have played a few of the games, but they have no idea about the whole ecosystem that was Nintendo over the last 10 years. It's super weird to me, and I just don't like seeing that these are the guys that have a ton of subscribers on YouTube now. Whereas guys like Mizzy and other gaming YouTubers that have been here for all this time, Active Gamer Life, all that stuff, people that have been following Nintendo this whole time, supporting games that are good, talking bad about Nintendo when they deserve it, you know what I mean? Then we have these bandwagon people here that clearly haven't been playing games that often, clearly have jumped onto YouTube just to try to make money off of the Switch bandwagon, and they're making all this content and getting all these subs. I just don't understand it. So I really don't want to, I don't want to talk shit about this because he's one of my favorite YouTubers out there. But Arlo, Joyous channel, again, I love the guy. I really love his content, but he's just kind of one of the people there that kind of, is kind of a middle ground for me. Whereas I appreciate everything he does. He's a very busy guy, apparently. I don't know how he can be so busy if he isn't this his full-time job. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. But yeah, his most recent video he put up was about games being perfect for Switch, right? That's another thing I like about him is he's very similar to me in that whenever I do topic videos, I have some topic videos that are sort of, based around conversation that's going on recently, but will kind of bring up new questions for people. And that's something I do appreciate about Arlo and how analytical he can be. However, after he posted that video, it was a little bit of a revelation to me. So I see the video. I say, oh, excuse me, new Arlo video. That's awesome. I really want to watch this. But then I read the title. I'm like, wow, games being perfect for Switch. He's going to talk about the same thing everyone's been talking about for the last, year. Then I also see the thumbnail, and he does the generic sort of YouTube thumbnail. However, he does have the cute Arlo figure, which is really cool. But then he has this made up, oh my gosh face or whatever with a quote. And I'm like, oh man, he's kind of doing the same thing, chasing the views with this kind of stuff, which is fine. I get chasing views. That's what people do. But I don't know, just something about it. I just didn't even want to watch the video. And that's, and that's fine. This happened with me so many times. I'm subscribed to a ton of these channels, like the Switch Forces, the Game Explains, the Arlos, the BitBlocks, the the Sunbookish games, the, everybody you can think of for these channels, and stuff like that. Scott the Woz, who's one of the only really good ones right now. It's just the atmosphere is so weird. A lot of these guys, like CND, who I've knocked quite a lot of times. He was so excited for the Switch. He seemed like a really fantastic Nintendo fan who would have an amazing channel, but then as soon as he's done with lines and stuff like that, talking about just a Switch and the few games that are coming out for it, he doesn't play no games. He doesn't know anything about games. He just made a video about the Smash Bros. Direct and literally knows fucking nobody. And it's just so... It's a guy... Again, I don't want to rag on the guy. I know he has issues right now and stuff like that, but just in general, there's a lot of people, not just him, who are doing this. They say that they play 2 Nintendo games and then they say, hey, I'm the biggest fan. I'm going to make all these hype videos on YouTube. But then they don't know fucking anything about any Nintendo games. They don't know anything about Nintendo ecosystem of games. They would never play an indie game if their life depended on it. It's stuff like that really grinds my gears, you know what I mean? And it's just, that's kind of the atmosphere of so many of these big Nintendo people on YouTube now that weren't there from before. So many of them have come up and just, they're making these videos now. They're all the same. They're all the same sort of thumbnails. They're all chasing views. They're chasing the money. But then they're not actually really fans. I don't like to say that kind of stuff because obviously they're still gamers and they're still Nintendo fans, but how are they so big while having a Nintendo-focused YouTube channel while actual people who actually play the games and are invested in this kind of stuff aren't? It's just sad to see, and it just means it just makes it seem like the whole Nintendo community and Nintendo Switch community seems like is run by these fake people, and it's just disheartening seeing that kind of stuff, because back when I was making videos way back in the day, we were full of a bunch of legit hardcore Nintendo fans and stuff like that in the Nintendo community, like playing Wii back in the day and stuff like that, and a little bit of Wii U. I wasn't really doing much in Wii U days, but back in the Wii days for sure, there's a strong emphasis on all the different games coming out and always people interested in them. But now all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's talk about Zelda again, or hey, let's talk about Odyssey again. But hey, now that I've only talked about these two games, now let's go back to them and say, maybe they're not as great because I've been talking about them for 10 months, but I'm going to ignore every other game that comes out on the Nintendo Switch because they're not all Nintendo-made games. I don't know. Like, again, I'm ranting off some crazy, just random stuff here, but it just really isn't a great scene. And I really hope with more Nintendo games releasing, it picks up a little bit more, and that there's less, because I get that there might be indie fatigue. Nintendo systems have a ton of that, and old ports fatigue, because 2018 has been majority of that, which depending on what you're interested in could be very bad or very good or just decent, kind of like what it is for me. I love indie games, so I have a blast with that. But the fact that a lot of Nintendo games are coming out, we have like Octopath that is published by Nintendo here, and we have Mario Tennis Aces, and I believe those are the only two Nintendo made games I bought this year. It's kind of weird. Some of the third parties are decent too, like the Blob, and we got a few other stuff like that, things like that, like Wolfenstein, but nothing too big, nothing too crazy. So I get that some of these guys don't know what to do with their channel, so they're making some random videos that don't make much sense, or that shows how how not knowledgeable they are about some of this stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I know I'm just kind of ranting about it, but it's just kind of disheartening seeing that kind of stuff. And again, I apologize to Arlo for kind of bringing him up as the first one, because he clearly has interest in different things. He talks about indie games that he plays, even though it's really just the main ones that everyone else talks about. He doesn't do any really searching for himself. Yeah, I don't know. Like the BitBlock, again, I've talked about him for a while, but he's one of my favorite YouTubers, but he doesn't even give a chance to any indie games or any other games that doesn't have a Nintendo slapped on the box. You know what I mean? And that's really sad too, because he was the guy who was here back in the Wii days and stuff, making awesome content, but now he's just burnt out, it seems. And now he just literally will only play the big Nintendo games, and even when he plays them, those are the only ones he plays, those are the only ones he looks forward to for months and months and months. And then obviously his anticipation is so much higher, than he's going to say, the game isn't that good. I don't know, guys. Those are just my thoughts about that. What do you guys think of the whole Nintendo Switch kind of community gaming atmosphere around YouTube and Twitter and that kind of stuff in general? It's really, again, it's a little disheartening for me to see that kind of stuff, but it is great to see that we still have some channels going about, in detail about certain things, like Mrs. T's doing really fantastic. I'd love to see, Mrs. T's one of the main ones, I would say, but we also have like Active Gamer Life, and we have some of these other guys out there, but a few others that I might do a separate video on, not for like attention or whatever, but it just kind of disheartening is seeing channels like Spawnwave, who I've been a huge proponent of recently. Since he started, I was there when he was like very early, like I think I was there when he was like 15 or 20,000 subscribers. Seeing him kind of jump into this mold too, where he's just chasing the views now, and he does have some really good content still. I love the Spawncast and the people that he has on, but it's just sad to see that kind of stuff. Actually, here's another good one, is OJ, Player Essence. The guy's kind of a lunatic when it comes to just arguing or having differing opinions with people. Or even facts sometimes. He loves to kind of construe them a little bit, but the guy does some really good content, and he really talks about the actual games and stuff that's coming out, so I do appreciate that. But then you have like RGT85, literally just creating videos just to get views. Spawnwave does it, Dreamcast Guy does it, Rob Tool, Rule of True Review is also another good one though. He'll talk about a lot of topics, but again, he'll focus mainly on Nintendo stuff. I'll never see him playing like an indie game or something like that. It's just weird seeing these people who have this kind of following and that I really enjoy watching when I can, but then just you see the stuff, it's interesting, they make good quality videos, but then you'll see like there's one thing that always happens that it's just like, wow, you really don't know what the Castlevania character is? You don't even know what Castlevania is? Like, what the fuck is that? I don't know. That whole thing probably just came off as me being some judgmental prick. But hey, no filter Nintendo podcast. I guess that's in the name. So, there it is, guys. That's gonna be the episode this week. let me know what you guys think of the whole atmosphere, and let me know what you guys think of the games I talked about too. I have a ton of reviews coming out in the next couple weeks, and I really want to let you guys, really would love to see you guys comment, leave me some thoughts about what about the games and what your thoughts are about this podcast today. So thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you all next time.